Okay, so what could the appointment of Judge Amy Coney Barrett on the High Court mean for crucial decisions? Let's bring in our legal panel. Judge Andrew Napolitano, Fox News senior judicial analyst and host, a Liberty File on Fox Nation, Elizabeth Wydra, Constitutional Accountability Center president, and Andy McCarthy, former assistant U.S. attorney and Fox News contributor. Welcome to all of you.
Great to be with you.
Okay, I want to play something from Democratic Senator from Pennsylvania, Bob Casey, talking about one of the main cases that Democrats are now highlighting as this confirmation moves forward, it appears.
Is the most urgent, near-term, and I think consequential issue, and that's the Affordable Care Act. There'll be an argument in November 10th, and it's been the president, this is no secret, it's been the president's objective, and I think congressional Republicans to have it overturned, to really to destroy it and to wipe out protections for pre-existing conditions.
Well, Andy, I think you and I are sort of on the same page about the fact that Judge Barrett may not really make a big difference in that case.
Yeah, I think this case is going to be a shutout, Shannon, and in terms of saying that the mandate is severable. But I thought Casey's comments are interesting, as was your discussion with Eric Swalwell, because I think it perfectly shows the difference between conservative and liberal judging. The conservative judge doesn't look at this and say, how do I destroy the Affordable Care Act? The conservative judge says, policy is for Congress to make. My job is to figure out, is this provision severable, or does the whole statute have to fall? And I think that's the way she'll look at it. That's the way any good judge will look at it. And I doubt there'll be more than a vote, if that, for the other position.
Judge Napolitano, this, if she's confirmed, would be a tectonic shift in the court. It would no longer be 5-4 John Roberts' court. It would be a 6-3 Clarence Thomas court, essentially.
Well, and good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be on with all of you, my friends and colleagues. John Roberts, of course, is at this moment, or before Justice Ginsburg's death, as of a week ago, was the swing vote, who on some issues sided with the liberal wing and on some issues sided with the conservative wing. And when those wings stuck together and he sided with them, they prevailed. There were many, many of those 5-4 decisions. He will probably not have that luxury any longer. However, things don't always turn out the way the president who nominated the justice expected them to. Justice Gorsuch, for example, has shown a libertarian streak, which warms my heart, that I don't think President Trump necessarily appreciated or anticipated. This was manifest, of course, in his use of the word sex in the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to apply to LGBTQ, something it clearly wasn't on the table in 1964, but by using the textualism argument, the word sex means everything sexual, he voted with the liberals on that. It wouldn't surprise me to see a Justice Barrett doing likewise.
Well, and Elizabeth, you and I track the court. You're often involved in filing briefs there, very involved in cases there. What do you think now about speculation that Justice Breyer may not always stick with a left-leaning part of the court that remains there? It seems pretty speculative, but there are times that he has made decisions that seem that he would be movable as well. But Justice Ginsburg was so good at keeping that block of 4 votes together when she was really the leader of it during her especially later years there on the court.
Justice Ginsburg was such an icon on the court and off because she was so powerful in articulating a vision of the Constitution that protects equality and justice for all. And I think that there are other inheritors of that mantle already on the court. So I'm not really particularly, I don't think that that is likely to change very much. But, you know, I think that obviously judges should be independent. The problem here is that President Trump has injected a sort of outcome-based factor into this by having litmus tests, including having a justice willing to strike down the Affordable Care Act and important protections against making sure that people with pre-existing conditions aren't kicked off their health insurance or prevented from getting health insurance, which is a crucial issue during this time of pandemic. And of course, another litmus test was having a justice who would vote to automatically overturn Roe versus Wade. So I think what we need is a fair-minded constitutionalist who will not follow a particular policy agenda, even if it's the agenda of the president doing the nominating. The question is whether we can have such a nominee right now, especially when we're in the process of an election.
But Elizabeth,
yeah,
you're not suggesting they would actually ask a question of any of his potential nominees. Would you overturn Roe v. Wade? Would you overturn the ACA? I cannot imagine Judge Barrett or any other potential nominee answering that question, but I also can't imagine that he would ask it. Are you suggesting you think he has in vetting people?
I mean, it's a campaign promise. I don't know exactly how that meeting occurs, and, you know, I would think there are probably more sophisticated ways of doing that, but it's certainly a promise he has made. I think he would say to his voters that he has kept that promise by choosing someone who would strike down the ACA and would strike down Roe versus Wade.
All right. Well, we will, along with Andrew McCarthy and Judge Napolitano, watch that case November 10th at the court. And I think folks may be surprised at how, if she's Justice Barrett by then, may vote. Thank you all.
I don't really think there's anything that that they can do. I can't imagine Senator Kamala Harris being as undignified and pugnacious now that she's the vice presidential nominee toward Judge Barrett as she was toward then Judge Kavanaugh. I mean, there is a theory that the Democrats are just going to roll over and let this thing pass rather than waste their energy in a futile effort and deal with it after January, because in their view, Joe Biden will be in the White House and they'll have a majority in the Senate. I don't know what they would do to deal with it. Perhaps jurisdictional withdrawal from the Supreme Court, which is another crazy and inflammatory issue. But there's very little they can do, in my view, in the Judiciary Committee meetings or hearings or on the floor of the Senate.
Well, and Elizabeth, unless they decide to boycott them altogether, which there have been whispers of doing that, I would expect they're going to press whoever this nominee is, you know, to really try to get inside her jurisprudence, her ideology, how she would decide cases. And we know that nominees are never going to be specific about something like a contentious issue like abortion, which seems to be at the center of the conversation about Judge Barrett. We've seen a number of nominees, both from Republican and Democratic presidents, not give us a lot of information. I mean, what duty do you think they have to divulge where they stand?
Well, I think I'd look to the Senate's duty of advice and consent under the Constitution. You know, I think first there will be an issue, even if the president, obviously as he is, goes forward with this nominee, there will be an issue raised during the hearings about whether this is an even appropriate time, given that voting is already underway in early voting states and that we're in the middle of an election right now. You know, I think also there's going to be a question, of course, about the record of the nominee, which fits with the president's litmus test of striking down Roe versus Wade and getting rid of the ACA. So there will be close questions, and I think it's within their duty. And Senator Harris, I think, was fully dignified in following her constitutional duty when she questioned the nominees before her.
Panel, got to run. Thank you so much, Judge, Elizabeth, Andy. We owe you some time next time. Keep it here. All eyes on the White House as you look live.